Today, we would like to present our topic, Act Utilitarianism. I'm Sammy.
I'm Arena.
I'm Janice.
This is our table of contents. First of all, I'll talk about what is Act Utilitarianism. The definition of Act Utilitarianism is an act is right if and only if it results in at least as much overall well-being as any act the agent could have performed by Eggleton in 2014. Act utilitarianism emphasizes the value of consequences of particular action and determining whether the act is morally right or not by counting value of consequences of performing particular action. The basic proposition of utilitarianism is that the value of an action depends on the value of its consequences. That is to say, actions that lead to positive value consequences have positive value, while actions that lead to negative value consequences have negative value. However, even if an action is determined by the value of the calculated consequences, this can still have two different orientations. The benefits of behavior is emphasized, which is the standpoint of act utilitarianism. Next. Act utilitarianism is the direct application of the utilitarian principle to judge whether an act is moral or not. And as long as a certain act can bring the greatest happiness to the greatest number of people, it should be approved even if the act violates general moral rules. For example, when I saw a red travel light on, I thought, should I stop the car? If I stop, I can reduce the occurrence of car accidents and protect myself and others. And I think I can protect oneself and others, so I should stop. And I make this decision based directly on the value of the consequences of the behavior. So I emphasize the benefits of the behavior, which is the utilitarianism approach, and I can maintain safety of oneself and others, and it is valuable. So I make these decisions. Next. Now, I will talk about why Mackey called act utilitarianism an ethics of fantasy. In Mackey's assumptions, Mackey assumed that if we accept a moral theory, we rarely do what the theory says what we should do. And if the moral theory is unrealistically demanding, we should not accept. And Mackey's ideas on utilitarianism is that even if it's set up as only a test of right behaviors, providing not motives, it is still unreasonable to judge the morality of individuals' actions by their greatest tendency to maximize the general interest. Next. Furthermore, Mackey thinks that there is too much demand for consequentialism. The standards before the page. Yes, the standards of right behaviors are too high. And besides, there is existence of profound concerns such as oneself, family, and friends. Mackey also believes that less people want to value interests of someone that they have never met as much as value their interests of own children. Next. Besides, Mackey thinks that there is wrong presupposition in utilitarianism. He thinks that happiness in human experience is closely related to previous future experiences and also influences with each other. And We cannot accurately calculate the amount of pleasure caused by various consequences. And also, it is difficult to know much about what status each person was in while receiving the pleasure. Next. On the other hand, in contrast, utilitarianism indicates that the happiness calculation method is used. Amounts of happiness caused by a consequence to people can be determined, and various consequences will cause different amounts of happiness. A person will get the amounts of pleasure that results from consequences, no matter what state and what situation he is in, and this is different from what Mackie thinks.
Thank you, Sammy. Now let me talk about the article analysis. According to the article, Mackey stated that it should set up a restrictions in which moral conclusion founded from human happiness, and it should not only focus on the calculation of happiness, but also the amount of pain. There will be more complicated when considering the pleasure and pain of non-human animals. He also pointed out that the motivations of people's action is not only the desire for the general happiness, but also other conflicting purposes like material goods, money, etc. He stated that practicable reforms should be advocate and develop principles that really fit human actual thoughts and motives of their behaviors. Next. And furthermore, there is arguments of utilitarianism. It is stated that as utilitarianism makes moral judgments objectively true since it provides an objective way to judge whether a behavior is right or wrong. Whether we rely on foreseeable or actual consequences, as long as we know the total amount of utility produced by the consequences, we know what behavior is right. But in fact, we have difficulties on measuring well-being. Besides, ancient utilitarians believe that the consequence of an actions are the only criterion that determine the legitimacy of the act and produce the greatest pleasure. However, real utilitarians argue that this view turns the entire questions of the moral responsibility into a calculation of the outcome of action, which distorts the nature of moral judgments. For example, a trust relationship with others will be destroyed since utilitarianism encourages people not to do promises, but to do what brings the greatest well-being. Next. Then, do we agree with Mackie? Our answer is yes. The first reason of agreement is it is difficult to measure the amount of happiness. Bethlehem had developed hydraulic calculus as a calculations method finds out the happiness brought by their behavior. He believes that the behavior is to pursue happiness and avoid pain. Let's think that if we can't calculate the amount of happiness, then we can't determine the value of the act, and we don't know what to do. Therefore, if the happiness calculation fails, the utilitarianism cannot become an ethics that guide our behavior. In fact, the intensity of happiness can be calculated too. Happiness is a subjective feeling, and there are often different feelings about the same things. For example, listening to K-pop music. Fans of K-pop group will feel very happy, but for others, they may not enjoy the K-pop music. Then how we calculate how much joy when listening to music? Utilitarianism based on the value of behavior on subjective feeling. But at the same time, there is a hope that the objective value of the act can be calculated too, and it is impossible. Next. Also, it is difficult to measure certainty of action consequences for others. The difficulties of determining the outcome of any act that a person carry out the questions of determining what is good and justice for others, just like what may be good for you but may not be equally good to others. And taking the actions will also spend extra time, cost, and unfeasibility in every situation. The process of re-evaluating each situation is a waste of time, and time is often an important factor in making moral decisions. Therefore, the objectivity can not be achieved in a short time. Now I will pass the time to Janice.
Thank you, Arena. And now I'm going to talk about some cases or examples that are related to acts utilitarianism. And the first cases is from the New York Times, and there was an article titled that "Who should be saved first? Experts offer ethical guidance," and it is a stories about a Italian old godfather and who has a ventilator in the community. However, the godfather give up his ventilator and give it to a young patient. And a few days later, the godfather died from the disease. And of course, we knew that the godfather has a big heart and his sacrifice is respectful. However, this article is emphasized that if the stories of these backgrounds change to hospital, and if there are only one ventilator, who should we save first? And the author of this article is Austin, and who is also a vice professor of University of Boston. And he tried to come out this moral question because under the pandemic situations, the Western countries a lack of public resources, and they have to make use of utilitarianism and choose who should we save first. And in these cases, he just suggests that if you have only one ventilator, it will go to someone more likely to survive instead of someone deemed unlikely to do so. And it will not go to whichever patient was first admitted, and it will not be assigned via a lottery system. So he also means that as elder, the reaction of elder towards medical treatment is weaker. So he think that we should decide to save the young one first because under the utilitarianism and there no one can enjoy the public resources endlessly. So how is it related to at utilitarianism? In our general ethical value, we believe that all humans should be equal, and no one, including professor or doctor, whoever have a higher professional, could decide who could live or die. And in some countries, like China, we believe that elders should be more respectful and all decisions should be fair. However, in this case, the author suggests that we should decide human life in the probability of surviving. So we are not going to save the one who is about to die, but we maximum the effects of the treatment. So we save the young one first. And it also consider about the contribution of young one to society. So we decide to save the young one more than the elder one. And it violates with the ethical value that all human has their own human rights, and also it violates to the fairness and equality of human, but it maximum the benefits to the society since it first maximum the effects of the treatment and then make sure when the young one can live, can survive, and they can contribute to the society more. So the second cases is about the prostitution law, as we knew that some countries, they have their laws to ban prostitution, as they will arrest or they will charge fine to the prostitutes or the patron. And in other ways, some countries, they support to make prostitution legally. So this article from BBC is suggesting that we should making it legal, and in the left hand side it suggests it is discussing that how anti-prostitution law even work for, and it states that the experts say that in poor countries, anti-prostitution measures are often weaponized to punish women, sex workers for having control over their own bodies, and these laws are not always effective in stopping the spread of disease, human trafficking, or violence against humans. And also, the professor of law and social justice at King's College in London, he suggests that the anti-sex work laws are invariably forced to the detriment of sex workers' rights. And people also believe that the focus of these laws should be based on empowering the women involved, who tend to already be part of the valuable sector population, and the best way to do it is make prostitution completely and 100% legal. So how do legal prostitution related to utilitarianism? First, prostitutes are always seen as immoral, especially in some countries like UK, US, or China. People believe that these prostitutes betray their own bodies and they have big desire to money, and they also believe that sex should be only for intimacy or a love relationship, and they also concerned about prostitution may cause spread of diseases, human trafficking, or violence against women. However, supporting legal prostitution can show that they suggest that this is a way for them to earn a living, and also it's in provide an insurance for prostitutes, and it also can help preventing those prostitutes being violent by their customers or any other thing, and also it can encourage the industry and make people who is jobless and willing to join the job sector to find this job and earn their own living. And we believe that this is a human right for them to earn their own living. And also making it legal can prevent underground transaction. So we with less underground transaction, there are less risks of unsafety prostitution deal, so it can have less risk of spread of diseases, human trafficking, or violence against women. And we can see that supporting legal prostitution, acknowledging the moral value of respecting our own bodies or respecting the intimacy or love relationship, and also it violates to the society moral value towards prostitution, but it also maximums the happiness of the prostitute because they can have a legal way to earn a living, and also they can have a secure environment to work, which help them prevent dangerous things. And also when this industry are being encouraged, more people join these sectors and more people can find their own money, and it can encourage the society and economy. And also making it legal can prevent underground transactions, so it will have less risk of spread of diseases, human trafficking, and violence against women, which can also stable the society environment, and which is related to utilitarianism. So I hope these cases can help you acknowledge about utilitarianism. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you. And these are our references. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.